Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first session of the 2024 World Percussion Group Academy. I am so excited to be hosting today's session as our usual host and artistic director, Tim Palmer, is currently at a show in Stockholm, Sweden at this very moment. They are performing on the World Percussion Group May tour. They are there, so I will be here today hosting this session. I'm the Director of Operations for the World Percussion Group Academy. I was a part of the V Tour and the in-person fall tour last summer in 2023, so I'm super excited to be helping out with the logistics of this year's Academy and helping host these first couple of sessions while Tim is away. So hopefully he'll also pop in at some point today. He's hoping to set up his laptop somewhere and be able to say hi to us in a little while. So let's go ahead and get started. I am super excited to introduce our very first alumni coach, Caleb Pickering, who was WPG's very first composer in residence back in 2019, came on tour with the group and wrote a bunch of amazing pieces. And we are so excited to have him back today. He's currently the professor of percussion at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and is also an amazing composer and writes super creative pieces. I've played a couple of them. They're super great. And with all that being said, I will go ahead and let Caleb introduce himself as well.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Yeah, it's nice to be back. Can y'all hear this piano in the background? Okay, good. Somebody decided they want to play the hallway piano and practice all their jazz licks they're trying to figure out. Yeah, so it's nice to be back. Like Megan said, I'm teaching down here. I just wrapped up my first year at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. So I'm from Texas originally, in the States, and it's nice to be back in the home state. And I was on the 2019 tour and the first composer in residence, and I just can't say enough good things about Tim and WPG and everything that goes on there. It's just such a cool event. And I'm excited to see some music, and here we got 3 people lined up with a wide array of different marimba works, and excited to talk marimba for a bit.
Awesome, thanks so much. Before we actually hop into this first piece, because we have a little bit of extra time today, I would like to show off some of Caleb's compositions that he's written, if this screen share will work. So we'll see how this goes. Is this working?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, great. All right, so this first piece is called Tinfoil for Multi Percussion and Tape, written and performed by Caleb.
I hope you're ready to listen fast because I'm ready to speak fast.
When it comes to science, there's things you can test right now, right? Fire burns, water's wet, drop something, falls to the ground, that appears to be gravity.
I've mixed with quite a lot of flat earthers in New Zealand.
You know flat earthers, I
They've been
guarantee
playing
it.
Nintendo games all their life instead of dealing with mud trucks, four-wheelers. They've been playing with Nintendo games and ping pong tables.
Because they don't have science in their brain, they don't understand how it works.
Jesus is going to come and we're going to meet him in space.
Are you crazy?
Space is space. They're going to teach you live on a spinning ball. That doesn't make it true. It's not real.
There's no way you can get a spinning heliocentric globe out of anything.
Make sure your rib cage is loose. That's why they get them.
Was that audio all working okay as well?
Yeah, for me it was.
Okay, great. So I'm going to skip a little bit later in the piece because I love this piece. Here's one more sample of this piece by Caleb.
How many proofs there isn't?
They are turning these conspiracy ideas against people, against victims, drawing circles and lines and arrows on it and claiming that this is fake, that's staged, this person is practicing their lines.
I don't even think they're playing. The spark of the conspiracy had been lit.
I'm gonna have all those bodies exhumed. That means I'm gonna have them dug up. Do you understand?
They are turning these conspiracy ideas against people, against victims.
That's such an awesome piece. All right, and I would like to show one more. Let's see if I can get this to work. Okay, one more piece called Drift, which is an awesome 2-mallet marimba solo, which is super, super cool. And awesome.
Cool. Yeah, those are my favorites.
Yeah, those are both awesome pieces. I just wanted to showcase a little bit about Caleb's performing and composing. I don't know if you have anything you'd like to share about those pieces really quick.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, they were. One was a commission from a consortium of, I think, 30, 39, 40 folks, that tinfoil tune. And yeah, it's one that I really enjoy myself. Anything that's kind of, I hate the word political because it's not politics that are in the piece. It's just kind of, it's everything. It's not a partisan issue that it's talking about. It's just kind of all insanity. But yeah, I like pieces that address things that happen in the world. I think some of the coolest rep is the pieces that are addressing events, whether they be current or past or future or esoteric, like Ives, the unanswered question. There's the trumpet comes in and asks the question that ba da da yeah, and then then it just turns into kind of chaos for a little bit in the woodwinds, and then you have all the strings just holding that. I think it's in C, that C power chord essentially through the whole thing. And yeah, there's so much heady stuff and like conceptual stuff you can get across. And now with percussion and digital audio workstations, you can just kind of craft all these sonic palettes that just sound really cool. And you can do things like mix a little bit of electric and a little bit of acoustic instruments and sounds and different things together, and you just get these new sounds and instruments. And to marry that with tackling something that's either controversial or a world event, I just something I really enjoy. And then the 2-mallet piece, I wrote that after playing a little bit of Gene Kaczynski's music. I think I wrote that it was a few years after his book 2 came out, and I was playing a lot of 2-mallet marimba, and I'd written one 2-mallet solo, Rhapsody Bacchanal, with C. Allen a few years before that, and it was one of those that just kind of happened. It just kind of came very quickly, and yeah, it's been about long enough. It's time to write another 2-mallet solo. That's a little choppy thing, but yeah, Drift's coming. I'm actually pulling that one back out right now for a show in Taiwan in July. So I gotta dust that one off. But yeah, a favorite of mine as well.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's super cool. And thanks for sharing your thoughts about both of those pieces. I also personally really enjoy those as well. With all of that being said about Caleb's compositions, let's bring on our first performer of the day. Yon, are you ready? Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. My name is Jon. I'm a Slovenian percussionist, currently on a master degree in Copenhagen, Royal Danish Academy of Music. yeah, I decided to sign up to get some very valuable knowledge from all these amazing coaches that we are about to have. It's really nice to be here. So, greetings.
Thank you. And can you tell us what you will be performing today?
For today, I think I've pasted 2 links actually, if time will allow us. The first one is a movement from Johann Sebastian Bach's Lute Suite in E minor, Allemande. The second one of the slower ones of the suite. And maybe the second piece, if we do get time, will be Impressions by Nicolas Martinchuk on snare and tops.
Oh, I was muted. Sounds great. I'm going to head off stage, and so you guys can both watch this piece together and talk about it.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. Leon, could you mute your
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no. Cool. That's rad. Hey man, first off, nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. Likewise.
You're playing, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, I just see if I can phrase this in a way that's clear. Do you feel like you play this as are you trying to channel like a modern percussion or more of a Baroque interpretation?
Definitely trying to lean towards the more Baroque kind of style, maybe like inspired by slightly clavichord / harpsichord, trying to get the voicings out and so on. But I've
Yeah.
always felt that because we have the dynamics available, which they don't have to just exploit that as well. So you kind of get a mashup of the two in a way.
I like that. Yeah, I haven't heard anyone phrase it that way, but yeah, I really appreciate, and it came across very much in the recording. Yeah, you can definitely, because there was aspects of it. I was just like, he sounds like a marimba player, and then later on, I was like, he sounds like a baroque musician, and then it kind of danced in between. No pun intended, because it's a dance. But yeah, yeah, really lovely playing.
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of curious. Let's see. So I listened a little bit before this, but I know you're doing some differences with the A and the B on the repeats. Could you kind of elaborate, like what you're doing? Maybe just some of the differences you're taking the second time on the A and the B section repeats, because it did. I could tell on the second one you were adding the mordents the second time, but not the first.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. But what else are you doing between those?
But generally, the main differences that I try to make is kind of how do you call this? Arrange in your head the way that the piece is flowing to kind of get like a full connected story between them. So also like dynamically and in terms of the phrasing and the sequences, they sometimes can be like played in a different way the second time it comes around. A very common template that you would have would be like to play AABB, right? Which is that A1 is like kind of mezzo forte or something. The second time would be piano. Then you would start the B part in piano and then finish on loud. But it depends on the music. Kind of, I make a personal choice for every single movement differently. Also, it depends on the context whether you play the movement as standalone or do you play the entire suite or partita or anything. So yeah, that's in terms of the dynamics. And then the ornaments is just the first time you play it is more like show the skeleton and what it is as a standalone thing, and then you try to embellish it and elaborate on it the second time it comes around. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, man. Have you ever tried? Are you much of a theorist? I'm going to assume yes, you're good at theory. I'm just gonna guess.
Well, like in terms of music theory, I have I think a pretty solid knowledge, and it can help me in these sort of
Yeah,
situations.
sure. Have you ever tried improvising around the structure?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing that quite a lot. The
Yeah,
main, I guess, problem that you would or obstacle you would come across is that the melody that you have in your head sometimes you try to put out on the marimba, and then of course you don't hit all the right notes, which requires to be very very how do you call this comfortable on the instrument, which we are all probably working on. But yeah, I definitely have tried that for sure. I
yeah,
also a lot of the time just improvise in my own.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I one thing I always do when I tackle Bach, uh, well, pretty much more so with stuff like this, with all the there's so many lines and voices, and you know, it's one of I feel like Bach, especially like, and you're playing great, but this is one of those pieces where half the people are like they play the ink on the page, and that's good. That gets the job done. And then there's the other half that are kind of trying to explore more. And yeah, I thought the voicing was really nice. I was just kind of curious because I went before this. I listened to it on loop once just to kind of get my head in the right headspace of what the original lute would sound like. Um, yeah, are you doing anything? I was just kind of curious, like beat one of the first bar, because they tie the notes to the appropriate length to reach the next beat. And those ties come through every now and then. Are you approaching those any differently? Like when a note is held for a long time. Sorry, I didn't mean to give you the finger. When a note is held for a long time, are you putting any more emphasis into it, or gesturing anyway?
Yeah, generally the ties that do occur, they're usually here in the left hand. I try to play all of that so with one hand instead of helping with the other, so kind of separated in a pianistic sort of way. And then what I do think about is like depending on the room that you play in, of course, the reverb or like the sustain of the note itself, and then I kind of try to weave it together or try so that all of the notes that are tied on the score would kind of die off at the same time. So generally, then you would, if it's a tie of 4 notes repeated, you would all have the dynamic always go like lower, 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 lower. So then at the end, all of the tails of the notes like kind of catch each other, and then all the bubble kind of goes away at one time and not spread around. Maybe
Yeah,
that.
that was the thing I was thinking too. Sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, overall, yeah, I think it's really, really nice. There's not a lot I would fix because there's nothing to fix. One thing I might consider, and this might just be that one recording. It might be different tomorrow, this morning, tonight. Who knows? New room, like you were saying. Particularly at the end of the A section, because you end on that 5 chord, B, D sharp, F sharp. I just penciled it down. I think it'd be kind of cool the first time through if you could de-emphasize the T solfege, the D sharp a little bit, because you're doing the da-da-dum. And it was fine. And then on the second time through, maybe de-emphasize the re, the 9th that it lands on. I just felt like the first time it went through the A section, because I mean it's Bach, so we know we're getting to the end of the section. We know we're going back. Everyone hears it. It just felt like the cadence was a little strong. Like it felt a little more finalic. Like I thought we were gonna. Actually, when I was going into the next line, because I kind of thought like, oh, maybe we're not doing repeats, and then you went back. So maybe just something to consider: cadence points and de-emphasizing. Particularly, I try to take out the T if I can, if I want to make it a little weaker, because that you go up to any piano in a music conservatory and you go, do re mi fa sol la, and you stop on T and leave the room. Everybody freaks out because they want to hear do, but you do the opposite. Actually, did this a few weeks ago. You go from do down to do. Do ti la sol fa mi re, and stop on re. Most people are okay if you stop on re because it doesn't like pull your ear. But for me, yeah, some of those cadential points every now and then, yeah, he was emphasized a little too much. It kind of felt like waiting for that one chord, this box. So he starts on the 5 in this one. So it kind of, which actually it's kind of cool. It built up our suspension, and we thought it was going to resolve, and then it just went back. Besides, one other thing, and this was, again, this is depending on the instrument, the mallets, the room, etc. Maybe it's something to consider. The very last 2 beats of the piece, you have that 6, walking 6, and then it resolves at E. Maybe bar placement. I often play, especially at the end when it has, because the bottom end of the marimba is so muddy. It's a third in the marimba, and that a C and an E is supposed to be a major third. It sounds like a third with some other stuff sprinkled in, and it's not clear. I wonder if you could play with the bar placement, like maybe centers to get more of the fundamental. Just so we have a real clear, like you hear that. What's the solfege? Where we at? That's that fa mi re do, right? Because we go to major, pick G third. Yeah, I wonder if maybe center of the bar to get more of the fundamental.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that could be mallets, that could be the room, or things that affect that.
Yeah.
And then
generally I went for very soft mallets just to kind of mellow out the very tone and the attack of it, so it kind of like merges together more. You get more of a connected phrase kind of sound anyway.
Yeah, I always would rather have a softer mallet where you have to dig in a little more than a mallet that's too hard that you can't get the touch you want. Let's see, what else? You kind of looks like you're doing. Have you been studying any of that Theodore Milkov stuff?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, I can tell you've been doing some of that. Yeah, you have that flow to your crossword playing. It seems like it's really helping. I mean, this whole suite is so busy. There's so many notes in it and so many moving lines. I would just keep working through that stuff, and something. And this might be a U.S. issue, more so. But in percussion, I feel like we play repertoire and we perform it once or twice, and then we like throw it away. And then, but our pianist friends, like, somebody will be like, "Oh, I've been playing Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto for 40 years," or "I've been playing this Beethoven sonata for 2 decades," and they still play it on every concert they do. I feel like if I were going to be working on this piece, and have you completed the whole suite?
Yeah, I've played it 2 years ago or something. I played the entire thing. Yeah.
Cool, yeah. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, this one's going so well. I feel like, just a word of advice, I feel like it would be a shame to do what we do as percussionists and let the piece go and like want to move on to the next project, because this is a really strong performance. And I think a lot of us do that, where I see an undergrad senior about to complete their degree program. They play velocities, and it's an amazing velocities, and then they're done, they graduate, they put the piece down, they move on to the next thing, and they don't get to like get the mileage out of that one piece, and get to celebrate it and live with that piece for a little more. So I would just advise on that. And besides that, man, I apologize, I don't have a whole lot to tell you that you don't already know. I would just really say, just keep going with it. The only thing I might change with mallets, I don't we're using a soft two middle and a harder one in the
No, it was so left hand was the same and the right hand was the same. So it's kind of like two voices, left and right.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if you could have maybe one softer in the bass, even, or maybe just a little softer, or maybe a little harder. No, 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 not harder. Maybe a little softer in the bass, or maybe not necessarily softer, but something that has a little more like a string bass, like a pluck, like a guitar pluck. Like, I think you're using the Zivkovic new mallets, and those sound really nice. Yeah, they have a real full sound, but every now and then I kind of wanted that loop, where you can hear the finger picking, and it has that really nice ding, when they go up to something high or something low. And it's going along like that. Are we out of time, Megan?
If you would like to play impressions, now is the time. So, if y'all are done talking about the Bach piece, we definitely have time for you to do impressions now for the next 15 minutes or so.
Yeah. Which impressions is it?
It's just the first movement from Martin Schoff.
Oh yeah, I don't think anyone's played movement 2 and 3. I don't think it's ever been performed. We all stopped.
Yes.
And this is a performance of Impressions Movement 1.
Cool. That's nice. Yeah. I love good drumming. Have you played the second and the third movement?
No, I have not. Like
No
you
one
said before.
No one has played. I'm sure they're good. I don't think anyone makes it past the first. That first one is so choppy. Cool. Yeah, just a few little like technical things that's what I always love about pieces like this is and like how you played it. The music is there and the musicianship is there. But I think I might have a few like technical tips that might just give you a little more facility. Um, so just a question. So that was a really good performance. Does that feel pretty standard? Like if you were to do a run tonight or tomorrow morning or something, would that be about the same level, or was that like a really good run? Or
I think basically I would just have to get up to speed with the piece just to get the muscle memory back, and then it would maybe be something like this. Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a bit below because this is kind of the few days before recording this, I was of course practicing the piece. So maybe if you just do like a cold start, it would be slightly worse, I guess, in terms of the technical stuff. But yeah, something like this.
Yeah. One that I really like. Where's your fulcrum? Like when you're playing snare drum? Is it?
Oh, sorry. It's
Oh.
it's this knuckle basically. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
the one. Yeah.
Have you ever used any middle finger? Sorry, I'm not. I don't mean to keep flipping you off.
Once again. Yeah, no worries. You mean like for just as like the finger technique or as the fulcrum?
As
No,
a
I
as a 3-point.
Well, like I kind of depends on the stuff that I play. It kind of derives from timpani grip. Yeah, definitely. My timpani grip is the middle finger fulcrum. So sometimes I do that, yeah, but I didn't do it here for specifically. No.
Yeah, when I'm playing snare, especially concert snare drum that needs a lot of finesse, like this piece needs, and some of my music too. Like these pieces don't need strength; they need like like you need to be a tap dancer, not a bodybuilder kind of. But yeah, I use this 3-point fulcrum. Here, I'll just pretend I can just cut off my back 2 fingers. But yeah, I use this 3-point fulcrum where it's basically like you've got a cantilever kind of system. And it helps a lot. And if anybody else is watching, I always find that if I'm playing with my front finger fulcrum, that's fine. It gets the job done. But yeah, when I apply more of that middle finger and shift it to where it's like a 3, 1, 2, 3, like a triplet point, it feels so much steadier. More steady, steadier. Yeah, and I can control
especially in the very soft dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to use it a lot because it's just, I mean, it's like you look at any structure, like even your knee, your knee sits there and it's not just one joint. There's the knee itself, and then there's those 2 points of contact that help make it function and pull back and whatnot. And if you just have one, then that becomes you're putting a lot of effort. But yeah, having that second one, but it's the same thing with the fulcrum. The one exercise I might this is going to be real interesting how I'm going to share this. But one that I might do, as funny as that looks but a real simple exercise that really helps me is just taking it as and this is all double spacings. So 1 and a 2 and a done, 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 right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, and then moving it the same exact thing, but as triplets. And then it's slurred 5, so they're all evenly spaced. But just having that, and forgive me, I haven't played since like 2 days ago. But yeah, having run into this chair. And you can go as far. I mean, you could go into moving them back to where they're all one only two lee, and speeding that up more and more and more. And that helps a ton for me because I find, especially with, I mean, even lessons here, everybody's issues always comes down to back finger keeping the sticks down and not letting everything fry, which you're not doing. And then there's just their double spacings, and a lot of that, once we incorporate that middle finger, that cleans it up really fast. And just a soloist tip that might help you. This one helped me. My old master's teacher taught me this. because so you're on stage, you played the piece 1,000 times, you know the music, you're good to go, but you get on stage, there's always that little extra bit of energy and nervousness that can kick in. So for one, and this is actually pretty handy. Like right now, I'm not like I'm not like I had some coffee, but I'm not nervous. But like my hands naturally just they jitter a little, like everybody's hands jitter a little bit. But it's this really fun technique that's really great for when I'm nervous playing, especially orchestral excerpts or soft starts to things. So I'm coming up to and I'm not nervous, but I just have that little bit of sway. But when I a little bit more, but when I kind of go into more like a what we like to call a German grip, which is over here we say German grip is this, even though we know that's not exactly the case. But going into more of a palms out grip, it just stabilizes me just enough that I can execute with a little bit more arm. That just helps me so, especially a piece like this where you have to start the softest. It's like playing Lieutenant Kiji. You play it softer than you would ever actually have to play it with an actual orchestra.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, play orchestra, that's easy. Yeah. But yeah, in the audition, you have to play it at this ridiculous dynamic that's musical. But yeah, starting with that arm movement or turned over just a little bit to get that first bar out, for me, that's a really helpful safety net because your arm weight is dumb and it's not going to move, but your small muscles are jittery and they're quick to, it's like when somebody spoofs you flinch like this, you don't kick out like that, you throw your arm out of socket. But just something to look into. Also, one I might check out, and I think we have a little time. If you have Logic or Audacity or anything like that, just going through. I have mine open right now. I won't screen share because it might crash everything. I don't know if I can do that. But taking in Logic and just literally slowing down, any exercise with doubles or buzzes too, and then just going down, taking the wave file, dragging it out to slow it way, way, way down. And that's really helpful. I've fixed so many of my issues just by saying, I need a 7-stroke roll. I play it 50 times in a row, go back and listen. And 10 out of 50, the second or the left-hand double is too open. And then I know I just have a tendency that I don't have enough fulcrum pressure, so I just add a little bit more, fixed.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing all the right things. You know what you're doing. Yeah, I would just say keep it up. And impressions, I think this is another one. Just keep it in your back pocket. There's some pieces like this that are competition standards and competition winners, audition winners if you go for a gig. So Brett played really well. So congrats, that's good.
Yeah, thank you. I actually recorded this for like a pre-round for a competition, like the one in Finland that's going to be up in August.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's exactly as you said. It can come in handy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. Congrats. Yeah, fantastic playing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, congratulations. Great playing. Awesome job. We are going to move on right ahead to our next performer, Marshall. Marshall, if you would like to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you go to school and what you'll be performing today.
Cool. I'm Marshall. I go to school. I just finished my first year in my master's degree at the University of North Florida with Dr. Andrea Vinay.
Cool.
I did my undergrad at TCU in Texas. And so today I'm going to be playing just the third movement of 3 moves from Marimba by Paul Lansky. This move is Slide.
All right, I got to ask you, Marshall, how long did it take you to learn Slide?
I had a week.
10 years or 40 years?
It took me longer to learn hop. Once I got hop down, Slide came a lot faster.
Cool. Yeah. Just curious. Yeah, this tough one to keep up here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Marshall. Yes, this will be Slide by Paul Lansky.
Hear all that applause we got for you? It was on me all at once. There's like 50 people. That's cool, man. Dude, that's a lot of notes to keep your noodle around. That's yeah, that's a lot of pitches to go by real fast.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's see. See if I can ask this question. How? So that's what gets difficult with pieces like this, or vignale is the same way. Is you spend so much time with it, or I playing it spend so much time with it that we get like really deep in the nitty gritty, and we know every detail. But it's really hard to then meet the audience, and it's kind of like, have you ever been to like a meeting of some sort and you show up way more prepared, or like a group project, you show up and have all your stuff in order and everyone else is not there yet?
Yeah.
That's how I kind of approach pieces like this. It's like, because the piece is hard, but it's good. It's like good music. It's just hard on the listener's ears because it's just a lot of information at once. I think my big takeaway would be like, you're nailing the ink as it is, and you're even adding some more stuff. But like, how can we help the audience get there? Because it's heady music. It's tonal, but it is heady. It's intellectually complex, and it's hard, not hard to listen to, but it's hard to digest in the moment as a listener. So how do you feel about Lansky's note at the beginning? Aggressively, I think you nailed the aggressively part. Project the meters. I think that comes through a lot, but you can definitely tell. The beginning up to A, and then A up to getting towards B, but not all the way to B, and then parts of B, and then definitely the D section, like the with abandon stuff. You could really feel the meter and like the time, but I think the spots that are harder for you, or that you have to like use a little bit more RAM, you're burning a little more your CPU to get the I think when it gets, the denser it gets, some of your good the meter shaping and stuff kind of starts to mellow out a little bit, and so you start to hear that just and it's like, okay, I can kind of hear the meter, but like you can definitely, when you hear those little when it restarts a phrase or a cadence point, we catch it. But I would just go back and maybe double check some of those denser sections. You don't want to. It's a fine line, right? Like, we want to help the listeners hear the meter. We don't want to like spoon feed it to them, like like we have Hans Zimmer that can have those super syncopated boom boom da 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 ding 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 da. But yeah, I think just some general more meter outline might be handy. Also, and this is just a personal preference. This is just my ears today. I think the louds are great, and when it's soft, it's like real delicate and nice. I kind of just wished it was soft a little more, or a little less, because there is that section like with abandon at the end, and that fortissimo at the end, and then the last page gets really heavy. It'd be cool if you could just save a little energy, maybe come down even a little more. Sonically set our palette, the low end, a little bit lower, so that loud is more. It's got more impact to it. It's like you're in a marching band show and they're doing sound check, and whoever is running sound like does the bass drop instead of like a test, just beat to make sure the sound system works. And it's like, okay, judges tape. Well, we know an epic bass drop's coming, so that surprise is blown. Yeah. So, but I think having that contrast will really, really help. Honestly, dude, just good job on getting through it. This Lansky tune, if you play the ink as it lies, that's like 90% of the work. It's just putting the damn thing on the instrument in the right time and the notes in the right order. So big props to that on its own. That's a massive accomplishment. Um, so yeah, you're off to a great place, and I would kind of say, kind of like what Eon and I were talking about. You're in your first year of your master's, or just
Yes.
finished? Yeah, dude, don't throw this one away. This is yeah, like we were saying, like, I have a friend, she studied, in one of her degrees in college, I think it was a master's. She was working on like 3 or 4 heavy sonatas on piano, and she still tours with them. Like, that rep is still in her pocket because she put literal blood, sweat, tears into learning that repertoire and crafting it and making it her own. And I think pieces like this, you just gotta, like, live with them for a while. And honestly, I don't know if you just put this on a recital, if you have any shows or recitals coming up where you're gonna put this on. But sometimes for me too, just putting it away and taking a step back for a little bit and then coming back to it as a different kind of an older musician, even just a month later or a semester later, yeah, you just hear it differently and you catch things you didn't catch the first time. It's like when you go back through and you watch a TV show for the second time through and you catch all the little nuance that you didn't quite get the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in general, I'm just kind of curious. So with 3 moves, hop, slide, and what's the other one?
Turn is the second one. Yeah.
So with this one is slide. So no, it's not a programmatic piece. Like, there's not a story. We're not following the character or anything. But tone painting wise and programmatically, how do you feel like slide and your performance connect together? Like, why slide? Like, why can't this be another verb?
Yeah. I think for me, I think of slide in the grander scheme of all 3 moves. And I think in terms of slide, I think I see it visually. Like, if you look at the score, and if anyone hasn't seen the score, the notes are almost, in a sense, for a majority of the piece going up the marimba. Instead, like da 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 da. Like, it feels like it's all just sliding, and then we're starting over, and then we're starting over, and it's this cyclical idea where it just keeps spinning and spinning and stirring and sliding around. And then I think it's interesting enough because I do think there's moments of slide where it calls back to the first 2 movements. And I think there's moments where you hear the way slide kind of finishes off the grander scheme of the 3 moves.
Cool. I'm right there with you. Have you ever played any vinyl pieces?
Yes.
Cool. Which ones?
I've never played solo vinyl, but I've played a few of his chamber. We played later on this recital. I played relative riffs. One of the marimba parts for relative riffs.
Cool. Yeah, it kind of gives me that same idea, just without as much vinyl. That score is heavily marked. It'll show the cannons and where they're falling and where they. I mean, it's pretty marked up. I haven't seen all the scores, but the ones I have, he puts a lot of details. I feel like those details are in this piece, but they're not necessarily implicitly stated, like, where to do it. There are moments like getting into letter C, and that letter C, we kind of get our first accents, for like a prolonged period. That it comes back again. I just feel like those phrase markings. I wonder if you could kind of sneak some of the vinyl bouncing ball either up or down. This is, it kind of makes me think now that you say, yeah, everything's sliding up the board. Like, yeah, could those, as it's sliding up, could it be, or is it, yeah, like which direction is it going? Or is it just all the same? Like a drum, like almost like drum set hits. And I think just in general, again, this is one that isn't, it's not yellow after the rain. It's not, all right, go in the practice room and all right, now do this for a little bit and then check that note placement and you're done. You're good. That's what you need to do for this week. I would kind of maybe sit down and, listen to a couple of, I'm sure you've listened to other people play this.
Yeah.
Yeah, plenty. I always hear people say the thing of like, I don't want to ruin my interpretation. And it's just like, dude, Shi Wu knows way more about playing bot than I do. I'm definitely going to go listen to her play it because she knows, and I'm going to learn from the master. But this one, I might just sit down and just put on your favorite recording or a recording of yourself and just listen to chunks a couple of times and then just go through and figure out like, yeah, what could, if I was Paul Lansky and I was making draft 2 or version 2, like what would be those next marks that I would put in to like I kind of think he's like the opposite. If you've ever played any Frank Kelly wind band music, that guy, I mean, to a positive because he's going to a lot of high schools, he marks those scores up with so many details that if you play exactly what he puts, all the music's there. And Paul Lansky's kind of the opposite. He's given us the big things. He's given us some slur markings to check out. But yeah, not a lot of musical info overall. And I personally prefer this because I like to go through and solve the mystery myself. I think it's fun. But I might go through and check out chunks, listen to them several times, and then just kind of look at it without, with your ears off for a second and just think about like, how can I make it's already interesting, but how can I make this more interesting so that the listener, or a non-percussionist, say you're playing at something that's maybe it's donors, playing marimba. That happens sometimes. You get asked to play marimba, 30 minutes of background music while rich people drink champagne and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe trying to figure out how you can get it to come across more for the not necessarily the non-musician, but just for the listener at large.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any questions about this one? This dense, man.
Not really. I think you covered a lot, and like you gave me a lot. I think one question I had is and it was kind of just an interpretation thing we had all semester. Like, what do you think? Obviously, I think it's in letter C or maybe right before D with the with abandon part. Like, what do you think that phrase means to you? Like with abandon.
Yeah, for me, I kind of feel it like, let's see, when I get to things that say like with abandon, first of all, the dynamic is on. It's there's no loud or soft anymore. It's just the dynamic is on all the way.
Yeah.
But for me, I kind of think percussion is so visual. I mean, it's like you're going up to play triangle. I'm sure we've all been there. You've got that one soft note, and you go up to hit your note, wood block, and you're just like, all right, here we go. And you miss, and you just have to like having the character.
Yeah,
a lot. So honestly, for me, that with abandon, you could make it more musical. You could make it more musical, but you could add more musical elements into it. For me, when I see things like that, especially the non-bold text, it's not like it's in the traditional tempo markings or things like that. For me, that feels like more of a character switch. So you could just write go goblin mode. That's what kids say now. You go goblin at the with abandon. But yeah, I think it is a little bit more like, I think the with abandon doesn't happen here. It happens like here and here. Yeah. Or for me, like I don't move a lot in my torso, but I move a lot in my feet. Like I would love to have like a sneaker cam for when I'm doing solo stuff, because it probably looks like I'm just playing soccer or football. But yeah, I think things like with abandon or some other terms like that, for me it's more of a character switch rather than like a musical choice. But sometimes it's like timpani. Like if you want the sound on timpani, if you're playing with like trumpets, if you want that regal baroque sound, you kind of have to physically embody that kind of tone. And if you want long passante heavy way to just boom, we do this, concert bass drum. If we want to be heavy, we have to like move like we're in water, like move heavy. Maybe with abandon, changing, just not getting into it more, but being a little more expressive and letting go a little bit, maybe letting it be a little messy for a second, and then clean it up in the practice room. But yeah, letting that go. I think having that character, the music will change on its own. Like it will, if you embody the person, the music will happen. Just
okay.
Yeah.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, man. Good job learning. Honestly, good job memorizing the pitches. That's hard. That's so many notes.
Yeah, it was a lot of notes to do that move after the other two. It's a lot.
Yeah. When I hear people practice this, I think that there's like the F word dropped in the score because I hear so many people shouting it while they're playing.
Yeah.
Well, great job, Marshall. Thanks so much for playing. Super cool. I am going to take you off stage now, and we have one more performance today. We have Jack from the UK. Jack, would you like to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what you'll be performing?
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
I'm Jack.
Hey, Jack.
I'm going to be playing, I don't know whether this angle's good enough, but I'm going to be playing As the Snow Falls by Robert Atomo.
Yeah,
from
sounds good.
Four Fantasies book.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we'll go ahead and put your video up for the performance, the one that you sent in.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right, sounds great.
Cool. Right.
Oh, yeah, Jack. I mean, you don't have to play live right now.
Right.
We can do the video. Yeah, we can maybe at the feedback portion.
Yeah.
Is that cool with you?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. So yeah, we can just go ahead and watch that video. It just makes it easier in case there's any weird connectivity problems or anything. But y'all could definitely do some exercises or something afterwards.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Cool piece. I don't know this one. Yeah, nice piece. Good piece. Good playing too. Yeah. Hey, what is Lento Cantabile at the beginning? Is that the composer? Just kidding. Oh, you're muted. There you go.
There we are.
Yeah, what's Lento Cantabile?
Well, I don't know. I kind of
Lean to
an interpretation of the score.
What about like the musical definition? Any guesses? If
Well,
you
it's
had
meant to be slow and sung.
yeah, slow and singing. I think you really nailed the first expressive character he gives you. That slow, kind of heavy singing, very expressive. Here, let me share a meme with you. It's one I saw a few years ago, and it stuck with me forever. And as it relates to music, really, how? By the way, if you don't mind me asking, Jack, how old are you?
I'm 18.
Man, great playing for your age, dude. Stellar. Yeah, good stuff, man. Keep it up. I definitely wasn't playing this kind of stuff. Yeah, when I was 18. But something to check out. Okay, this meme. It's the setup is a girl goes on a first date, and this guy shows up, and she's like, "Oh wow, he's wearing he's got a really nice shirt on. This is takes care of himself." They go on the second date, and she's like, "Whoa, man, this guy's got another nice looking outfit, nice shirt. And this guy's really on top of it." All right, third date, they go out again. "Oh wow, it's the first shirt again. Wow, he must really like that shirt." All right, fourth date, this guy owns 2 shirts. It's the second shirt again. So that's something we want to be careful with phrasing, especially the stretch, the push and pull of rubato throughout stuff. Just some of those phrases when you have several in a row and you kind of pull at the end of them a little bit, or you going into them or compress a little here and there. It's really nice. Just make sure you don't get too predictable, because that's the worst thing. Because the second you become, it's kind of the opposite problem of that Paul Lansky piece. Paul Lansky, there's so much information coming at you that you're just trying to grab onto whatever you can as a first time listen. This one, it's really easy to digest in the moment because it's a chord progression we've heard in pop music and classical music and other things. Most people's lives, if you've been around any sort of Western music, the melody comes back several times and you start to remember it. And, it's very easy to latch on and just go for the ride. What you don't want to have happen, though, is to get too predictable in your phrasing. And I've been in this situation plenty where, especially student recitals, and not percussion ones too, they'll be playing. I'm just like, wow, that's great saxophone. And then you realize it's like, whoa, where was I the past 2 minutes? And you just realize like you're kind of like following along, but it's like, oh, and now we're slowing down, do 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 do, and now we're slowing down, but and then you start hearing that, and it becomes so familiar that you start to tune it out a little bit. So just be careful. I would listen through and maybe pace, because there's lots of cool ends of sections in here, and some of them, like the very opening 2 lines, that D da 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 bum 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 5 6 7 ba da 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 like that's a big because you have that opening section, and then the tune really starts on the 3rd line where we actually start the piece. But maybe that poco retard, yeah, maybe that's a heavier one, or maybe a medium stretched length. But then maybe some others later, maybe they're a little more compressed, a little more in time, and then maybe some of those big ones stretch even more. It's kind of like ketchup, right? Like ketchup's great, or salsa, or any condiment, but if you put it on everything, it kind of defeats the purpose. Yeah. Cool. And besides that, and these are little easy fixes. The only other one, music, it's just 2 technical things I think will help. The octave stuff.
Yeah.
So an octave is like the most powerful sonic like sonority, and a third rings, but an octave like punches. It's like if you see like drum corps brass. Oh my gosh! If anyone's a drum corps brass composer on here or knows of, and I say something wrong, don't quote me on this. But from what I've seen in scores, it's often you set up those, root 5th octave in the bass, and then octaves here and there, and those octaves really punch. So I think a lot of the sections where you're getting D da 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 ba da da, you have the left hand going, and then you have those octaves right. I think just take the right hand down. That octave sings so loud as it is. I don't think you have to work that hard. Just keep them low to the board.
Okay.
And kind of the same thing with the moving line. It's again, it's one note that's loud versus a lot of little notes. So if you want them to be balanced, you could just take all those running inner notes and just take them right down, because there's so many notes that the sonic weight of it, for lack of a better term, is about the same as a loud note, right? It's like if I have a snare drum, and this isn't going to come across because I'm on a computer mic, but if I have a snare drum and I'm sitting there playing and I play like 4 loud notes, and then I immediately go into just doing all sorts of crazy crap underneath, and just moving your hands fast. All those quieter, like fast notes, they have like the same weight when you listen to them as like just slow, loud notes to me. So I try to keep everything balanced where it's, like a traditional melody bass accompaniment. Like the melody we want to be the most pronounced, but not stick out too much. We want that bass sonority tone to ring through, so we have we know where the bass line is and what our root progression is, or sorry, our bass progression is. And then the accompaniment stuff, those running lines, we can just take them way down, because it's like bass drum, crash cymbal, and then all the running keyboard stuff in the middle. We can just stay real low. And we see that like in wind band and orchestration all the time. Like we'll see low brass that have blah, blah, sorry, trombonist, blah, blah, and they're playing these long tones underneath. You have like a soaring melody in the middle. And then what are the woodwinds or like second violins doing in the middle? They're like playing all these fast but low notes, but they're together. So all that fast stuff just fills out, but it's not interrupting or getting in the way of what we want to hear, which is that melody. There's a long way of saying play the melody, play the accompaniment a little less. And then here's a question. Hey, what does rubato mean?
Like
I'm not
free.
sure here. Yeah.
Free.
Not necessarily free. The one I like is the concept of borrowed time. Some people say stealing time.
Yeah.
I really like borrowed time. So here, let's say you give me $50, 50, any currency in the world. And it's specified, I'm borrowing that from you. I borrow 50 from you. What do you expect to happen sometime in the near future?
You get it back.
Yeah, I'm going to give it back to you, right? I'm borrowing it from you for now, but I'm going to give it back. So I think take the same thing when you're playing rubato. Like if you're going in time for a long time and then you start stretching at the end, that's really cool. Just make sure you kind of maybe compress a little, like give us a little more speed at the beginning. It just helps us feel not lopsided. So I always try to think, if I'm going to really, really stretch and pull time leading into a cadence, I'm probably going to not rush, but I'm going to compress and build in a chill up until I start that. So it feels more weighted, right? It's almost like if there was a secret conductor conducting, that they might be conducting in 4, and you might be playing semi out of time, but the time is still there. Even though you're pushing and pulling, you're like compressing enough and then stretching enough to where you're landing with the beat. It's like if you play a concerto with an orchestra and the conductor's going along and there is a big accel and then a retardando. Yeah, you have to do those things, right? You compress, make the notes faster, and then you stretch to give it that impact. And then besides that, my favorite artist of all time is a man who's long gone now, Bruce Lee. You know Bruce Lee? Yeah. And that's not some secret marimba player. No, I'm talking about the martial artist. He has this great quote about you have to actually pull it up while the video is going, because I was like, I just want to get it right. But he says, Bruce Lee talking about water. He says, be like water making its way through cracks. Don't be assertive, but adjust to the object, and you shall find a way around or through it. If nothing within you stays rigid, outward things will disclose themselves. And then the part that I really like is empty your mind, be formless, shapeless like water. If you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. If you put water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. If you put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. And water can flow or it can crash, but he says, be water. And I really like that because I like to jump in and think, like when you're moving, like grab some notes. Like when you're moving around the instrument, you're sometimes doing these fast like shifts, or you'll move like do 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 do. And it almost, like in the acting world, they would sometimes call that visual noise. Because it is maybe on an album that comes across beautifully, but there is something. You ever see somebody do this on a snare drum piece? They're like about to play and they go up to play and they're like, all right, I'm going to play Impressions, the Martinsio. And it's like they've done so much visual noise. Like the piece starts right when your foot touches the stage to walk on. That's when the piece starts.
Yeah.
So just be careful with some of those motions. And I think I always tell my students, move on marimba like you're moving through water. Like there should be, like, if I'm going to go over here to strike a note, I don't want to just, unless, sometimes you do have to jump over there if it's a fast change. But if I know if I have to play bum, bum, I'm not going to do bum, bum. Like I'm gonna move like the music wants me to move, and kind of like I was talking with Marshall about, like if you embody the character, sometimes that helps the music come across a lot more. And you're doing that. It's nice because you're young, so I can see it's like it's there and it's developing and it's coming out.
Been trying to work on that, because that is something that's got pointed out to me a while ago, is that I'm pretty rigid in my playing. So I've been trying to make it more flowing, and obviously that contributes to performance.
Yeah, I would keep the thing of, yeah, try to move like you're underwater. Like there's just that little bit of resistance. Or it's like a good conductor, right? If they're doing a slow piece, they're not gonna be like it's gonna be like you can like feel the weight of the air in the room. So just consider that. And then have you ever heard of George Hamilton Green? He's an old favorite. The
No.
big American xylophone player from the 20s, 30s. Don't quote me on that. He has one rule. He's mainly playing two mallets, but his rule is keep your hammers low. So when you're playing on the instrument, keep them low to the keyboard. So right, because otherwise, like if I'm starting from up here, I either have to drop my arm down, and that's a lot of energy, or I have to come down with my mallet, and now I'm kind of playing right at that weird angle. I think that's what you're getting a lot is you're kind of up over the board, and you can hear it too. This might not come through super great on this one, but like this, just a Cangelosi mallet, it would block. But yeah, even just flat on, just a good playing zone. If I go to the tip, even just a little bit, I'm really not changing that much of an angle. I'm not changing the stroke. I promise I'm not. Yeah, hope that comes through. But yeah, I'm not changing like the stroke at all. All I was changing was going from flat to a little bit of a tilt. But I think a lot of yours, especially when you have a stretch and you have to say that octave, you have to get over there, you'll come down at a bit of an angle like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's getting just a little bit of a weaker sound, and that's something we fight on marimba, and it's really hard from a student perspective because you play clarinet, you don't put enough air into the instrument, just nothing happens.
Yeah,
it doesn't make a sound. We don't put enough air into the instrument, it still makes a sound, and we still get the pitch, and we can still hit the right notes, but we get kind of accustomed to that sound and we start getting used to that being our sound. And then we go see, you go see like somebody like go see Pius Chang play and slam into the instrument and get this huge, robust sound out of the board and play all this crazy stuff. And then it like reminds you like, oh no, that's what the sound is. So something I would just consider is just making sure, yeah, those mallets, you're playing Stevens technique.
Yeah.
Just I'm not like a Stevens purist. I mean, I think mine's okay. I don't know. I just hold the sticks and I hit stuff. But yeah, when you're playing, I would just be sure that it's not too much of an angle and you're getting that crown of the mallet that you're getting right on the spot.
Yeah.
Any general marimba technique or music questions about this one? Kind of like some of the others. This one like lends itself to be played well. As long as you do what the music's telling you.
Yeah. No, I think you've covered everything that I thought. There's a few things that I kind of knew I've got to improve on, and a few things I hadn't really thought about, like the pushing and pulling. Like I've been pulling it quite a lot, but I hadn't thought about how it's getting repetitive, because now I look at it, it is getting a bit. I do kind of end up doing the same thing at the end of every phrase.
Yeah. One way I would do it too is I do this with, I think you might be to this point where the repertoire is not getting stale, but you've been playing it for a while, that you're starting to fall into a path for it. Sometimes I'll take a piece and I'm gonna play this whole damn thing swung, or I'm gonna play this way over tempo or way under tempo or all dead stroke. Just something that gives you a variable that makes it feel different and kind of breaks your muscle memory. Because we fall into muscle memory so bad, and we rely on our hands, and we stop thinking a little bit. So anything you can do to just break monotony and give yourself some more ideas. But it's great playing. Yeah. It's very
awesome job, Jack. Sounding great. I also can't believe that you're only 18. That's totally wonderful that you already are doing so many amazing musical things. That's so cool. Do you have any more questions for Caleb at the moment? If not, okay.
What mallets do you use? Like, what kind of would you, for a piece like this, what kind of mallets would you recommend?
It's like this one. Honestly, I'm with, full disclosure, I'm with Innovative Percussion. I've been for a few years. For this one, I really like the Artisans or the Pius Chang mallets. Something that has like a rubbery, firm core, but a lot of softness around, so you can dig in and like get that big punch, or you can play with the softness of the yarn or felt, or sorry, yarn or cord or whatever it is, and you can get those soft bassy notes, or something like that. These I think Pelosi's a lot, but they might be a little harsh for this piece, a little too much punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's everything. To be fair, you've covered quite a lot.
Nice.
Yeah. No,
So now is the time we'll bring everyone else on to ask questions as well, if that's all good.
Yeah.
I know, Jan, you said you had one. Jake, do you have a question? Oh, you're muted. Hold on. I'll bring you on stage.
Oh.
Okay. Hello. I'll just start bringing everyone on, and then we can all
Just hang.
take turns asking questions. Jake, would you like to ask your question first, or Jan, would you like to ask your question first? One of y'all can go.
Sure, I can. So, what advice do you have for an upcoming grad student?
What? Master's or doctorate?
Masters.
Okay. You will have more time in your master's than you will ever have in your life. You have basically 2 years to do whatever you want. You got to do some things for school, but you have 2 years to basically do whatever you want. After that, if you do a doctorate, you still have time, but it is busy. Undergrad is busy, and then the real life is even busier. So yeah, you basically have 2 years. I would say, I'm somebody that I'm very big on. You need to rest, you need to eat, you need to be healthy, you need to take breaks when you need them, you need to take care of yourself, your family, if you have family that's close, or you need to be with them at an appropriate amount. However, I am full on, you can burn hard for 2 years. Don't burn out, but you can go really hard for 2 years and just power through, and you will thank yourself every day that you put the time in when you have the time. Because after that master's degree, you might not have that time again in such large quantities. But just hustle. I hate that word. I hate hustle culture. So I'm going to rephrase that. Just work as hard as you can, but stay healthy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like I guess kind of like a thing off of that, like what are some core things that you are thankful for that you got from your time that you think would be important for one who like I'm just gonna like what do you think I should get from that time?
Really, it's one. Where are you going to do your master's at?
Sorry. Eastman School of Music.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah. Not a bad program. I hear people that go to Eastman do okay. No, of course, yeah. Eastman and Mike Burt's, he's a monster player. Everybody that goes there is so good. I think it's just really important to kind of come in, keep your ears and your eyes and thoughts open and to possibilities. Because I'll tell you what, I as an graduating undergrad about to start a master's, I didn't think I would be teaching college and like gigging around and playing around. I didn't think that was in the cards. Like you never know where you're going to be in 5 years. It could be totally different. And every problem's an opportunity, more or less. That, and just make friends and connections. My friends from my degrees are still my best buddies, and we help each other all the time. Yeah, I think that's the big one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, Jan, do you have your question as well? You can ask.
Yeah, I do actually. It's basically, how do you approach building a concert program to appeal to just as big of a target audience as possible, not to only include percussionists or just musicians, you know. So in a way, like how to make the classic concert format more approachable to also like potential upcoming new listeners when it comes to classical music and non-musicians, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that one's tough because what we do is really interesting because often the pieces we play are either they're something for everyone or it's everything to someone. Like it's very important to a small group of people and very meaningful to them. Or oh, look at that. I did a thumbs up and the thumbs up came up. It's either very important to that small group of people, or we can go, a little more broad. The music of say Robert Oatomo. It's great music, but yeah, it's very it appeals to a lot of people, and we need both sides. So I think the challenge is I'm struggling with this right now too, making a program. Yeah, it's you just got to kind of make the call. It's like because if you sit in the middle and you have a little bit of Stockhausen, and then you have like the Beatles on marimba, that can work, and people do. We see it all the time. People will do like a mostly Mozart, and they'll do like all Baroque or Renaissance and like super, New Viennese School 20th century music paired together. And I think when you do extremes, it works, and when you do one or the other, so something heady for the art community or something more broad, I think you can do one or the two, or you can pair half and half. I think where we go wrong is where we try to make everyone happy, because there's always going to be someone that's not a fan of a piece on a concert. But yeah, I just try to keep people in mind, and I have friends and family that are not musicians or are musicians, but maybe not in the same, the same niche field as we all are. And yeah, just trying to create a program that has, at the end of the day, the people aren't coming to see the program, they're coming to see you and what you have to say and share. And I think the music isn't so much the medium, it's just how you use the music to convey the message. So for me, if you can have a concept, um, we were throwing around titles for this thing coming up, and I was kind of playing a lot of pieces that happened to be dance oriented. And, I was thinking like, oh, what if everything was like a dark twist on dance? So people understood as like, okay, this is like an allemande, and the program is set up. Oh, there is a prelude. There is a dance piece, a jig at the end. There is something to represent the Quran, the allemande in the middle. But doing things that, we just have to make a bridge. As so many of our people that come to concerts are often, they're like, I like to put on a little Bach after work and have a glass of wine. That's about where I stop, and I come to these shows every now and then. But yeah, if you can create a bridge that just opens their mind a little bit, I think that really helps. And having a concept and explaining it in the program or in the program notes, I think helps a lot too. Do you know that piece "Silence Must Be"? It's Terry DeMay. It's solo conductor. So the whole thing, it's contrasting 5 against 3 rhythms, and I've done that one a lot. And people always get it way more when I preface it like, all right, this piece is about conflict. Literally at the beginning, you check your pulse with your thumb. You can't do that. Your thumb has its own heartbeat pulse, and your pulse is here. So you already have, oh, there it goes again. You already have conflicting pulses from the get-go, and like conveying like what it means helps them understand, because people aren't dumb. Like, human beings are smart. Like we are smart, mostly. Depends. Most of us are pretty good, but sometimes, when I go to like an art gallery, I have my art buddies like, hey, can you like just explain a little bit? Like, help me. I'm part of the way there, but can you help me get a little bit further along? Because I don't have the right terminology and experience, even though I like art. But hope that helps. But yeah, I think the big thing is, we can't please everybody. Everyone's a critic. There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like it. There's always going to be somebody that raves too much. And, it's at the end of the day, it's all music. And I think if you can convey why you're on stage and why you're playing music for them and and what you're going to convey to them tonight or today. I think that really helps. Like starting with a heart to heart, like, hey, you and I are in this for the next 90 minutes, and this is what we're gonna do. And I think making that journey clear is helpful.
Yeah, great, thanks. Well, I just thought since the opportunities to even be able to show off a concert program are so scarce, you might as well like try to make the maximum most of it, right? Use the opportunity as much as you can. So yeah, that's where I derive from. Thank you.
Very nice. Awesome. And there is, I think, 2 questions. 1 question from Marshall as well.
Two-parter, but I think it's 2 completely separate questions. So my first question is, how do you approach like learning a piece, and what is your process of preparing a piece in terms of like getting ready for performance, and then also like what is your process? You talked a lot to a few of us today about like coming back to a piece, and so what would your process be once you've kind of sat on it for a while and not allowing that piece to get old or burn out of that piece or get tired of it? Like, what is your process of learning and then keeping with?
Yeah, learning music. That's everybody has their own things. For me, I find like if I started a piece today, if there are recordings, I'm gonna go seek them out. Like I want to know. I want to have. I'm not gonna be civil with that interpretation. And honestly, I could listen to 5 recordings. I'm gonna go back and start learning it. I'm not gonna remember what any of those 5 people did. I'm gonna remember the general, what the piece sounds like, what the tune sounds like. So if there is a recording, I'll listen to it. If there's not, if there's not, it's okay. Learning a piece, it's one of those. I feel like me personally, at this point in my life, I have to be in the right kind of headspace to effectively learn notes and like learn a piece. And sometimes, same thing with writing music. Sometimes I need to write music and I'm just not in the right headspace to do it. Maybe something happened or it's a hard day and it's just maybe that's not the day. So a lot of the time I have to level with myself of being honest with like, sometimes I go into the practice room. I'm going to practice on the board over there and I sit down to learn some notes. It's not happening today. That's okay. I can do other things. I can work on other stuff. So I try not to do an uphill battle as much as I can. Granted, sometimes you have to cram. We've all been there. You have a show next week. You have to learn a concerto in a month. You get in there and you get your coffee machine from home. You put it in the corner of the practice room, and you put a hammock in there and you just hang out. That happens. But yeah, for in general learning, I don't think I have too much. My big one is learn it slow, forget it slow. There's no reason to learn a piece over tempo at the very beginning. If you learn it slow and nice and easy, it's going to stay up here a lot more strongly. The other one I do though, kind of contradict myself. Oftentimes, once I kind of learn a passage, let's say I'm working on slide. I'm never going to attempt that again. I'm playing slide. If I'm learning a passage, I'll learn it really slow, but I'll go through and I will play it sloppy and messy and fast because I need to know what kind of facility my body needs to have. Because y'all all know, like, there are some things that playing them slow and methodical that makes sense, but there's other stuff where you need to do it fast to know what that physicality feels like, right? It's like playing Hiropo maracas, like to start 1, 2, 3. That's really hard because you have to make like that big of a gesture. So oftentimes we'll you get the fast motion. It's like, okay, that's what it feels like. Okay, it's messy. I know what it feels like. I know what I need to do. Now I'll slow it down and clean it up and build it back up. But yeah, I've talked with Cangelosi about this too. Seems like a lot of we of course want to go slow. We want to learn the notes right and correct and the music right. But there are some times we do need to go fast because we play things fast. It's like impressions. There's licks in there. Yeah, you play on that half tempo. It's no big deal. It's the easiest thing in the world. But full tempo, that you're shifting muscles. I mean, you're shifting muscle groups, you're shifting the gesture, you're changing where you play, and how your fulcrum pressure is. So there's just a lot of stuff to deal with. But I think that would be my advice on that, on general learning. And as far as coming back to it, I just, it's like the thing of you're a different person every 7 years or whatever it is. Like every 7 years, like your skin cells have changed, and like people's personalities and like thoughts, often views, kind of mold about. That's the average time is 7 years. So I'm not going to pick up a piece from 7 years ago, probably. But yeah, every time I come back, it's like I played Luminosity, the Thomas Galinsky piece. That's one of my favorite, choppy pieces to play. I played that years ago, and I put it away. I came back to it like this year, actually, after 5 years of putting it down, and I'm a better musician now. Like, I'm older, I'm smarter, smartish. I'm a little smarter. But yeah, coming back to stuff after a break, I think is really helpful because you play the next couple of pieces and you just learn more. My one that I always get is I always have a first year student that's probably going to play Libertango, the Eric Samu Libertango. They play it, goes okay. Then they take a semester of drum set with me, and we're playing a lot of funk, a lot of jazz, a lot of R&B, and doing transcriptions. Then they go back and play Libertango, and now they know how to like groove on drum set. And now Libertango is just different. The notes are the same, the dynamics are the same, but the feel has changed. And you can come up with any sort of variant on that. You go study a lot of snare drum, you come back to play marimba, or you start playing a lot of marimba, you go back to your snare drum music, you start thinking a little more melodically. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I guess the second part of that question, again, kind of related, but now what is all of that in your process for composition? Obviously, like a big part of what you do is like composing. It's like, what is your process starting a piece, writing a piece? Where do you get inspiration? Kind of all those things.
It's hard. Yeah. Me personally, it's especially lately, it's like, yeah, I have to just be in the mindset to do it. And sometimes you have to start, right? It's like, for me, it's kind of like doing chores or writing a paper. Sometimes the hardest part is just the first step, like just like starting. And then normally what I'll do, if I know I need to write something, or if I want to write something, right? Sometimes you're just hungry to write something and you might not have an idea, maybe you have a commission. I'll just set a timer and be like, you know what? I'm just going to improvise on piano or write around a little bit for 30 minutes. I'll set a timer for 30 minutes. And oftentimes that timer goes off and I turn it off, I set it away, and I keep going. It's literally, it's just getting started for me. Because it's intimidating, right? It's the blank page syndrome.
Yeah.
Or the blank canvas syndrome. As far as process, though, I just keep finding everyone is so different, but also kind of the same. Like maybe the path we take is different, but it seems like it's the same. It's a germ of an idea. It might be a little 4-measure or 2-measure marimba lick that's cyclical that you can just loop forever. It might be a snare drum theme. It could be as simple as that. And just how do you spin that thing and elaborate on it? Or what comes next? What came before it? How do you take that idea and mold it into something more? And a lot of the times it's just a little bit of improving will help me get through that, because at the end of the day, composition is just improving at a very slow speed, and improvisation is just composition at an extremely fast speed. Right. So for me, improv and composition, they're kind of two sides of the same coin a little bit. Like I know I can improvise, sometimes writing snare drum stuff too. I don't want my muscle memory to do, because we like certain licks on snare drum that we like to play, and that will turn into whatever it is. But I've recorded myself just like drum speak, just scatting rhythms and like feels, and then I'll go back through and notate it. And some of it's not good, but a lot of it is like, oh wow, that was a musical idea. But if I would have played that with my hands, they would have wanted to throw like a paradiddle diddle in it, or something that flows out easily for us, and just things like that. But again, like anything, the hardest part is just the first step. Yeah. And
Awesome.
in
Thanks so much. Oh,
yeah, for sure.
sorry. No, finish
No,
your thought. Sorry.
I think in general, I mean, playing or writing, I think you just have to it doesn't matter what other people think. It's like I told somebody the other day that was nervous about being on stage. It's just like, no, if anyone you're playing on stage, first of all, everyone in the audience, if anyone makes fun of you, they're just an asshole. Like you're the one on stage making the music. Like if they should be up there if they're so good. And maybe they will be, but you know what? We support each other and sometimes pieces come out and they're not so great. That's okay. You got better at composition and again, if anyone's going to make fun of the music you write, they're just a jerk anyways. And the more people you meet and uh, Jake mentioned this too about what to do in your masters is just to be a cool person, just to be a nice person. There's so many people in the community that are just so awesome. And I think the percussion community at large does a really good job of making sure we kind of check each other a little bit and everyone's very cool. I think it's not like that with other families sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for your questions and for all of your answers as well. With our last couple minutes, I actually have a question if no one else has a question. Just to finish up our session, I know this might be a situation that you've experienced relatively recently. So I was wondering if
I didn't go to
you.
jail. I didn't go to jail. No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
no, not jail related, lesson curriculum
Really?
related.
Oh, I forgot this was live. This isn't a podcast we edit. I have
This
not
is
been to
live.
jail. I've never been to jail. Sorry. Yeah.
No worries. No, it's very percussion lessons related. So if you are at a new job where you have not necessarily met most of the students before and you are responsible for teaching them, I guess I ask this mostly in the frame of college, but if you have any advice for maybe younger students as well, how do you structure your lesson curriculum before you've kind of been somewhere for a couple years and had the chance to like extensively collaborate with students? Like, do you have like a general formula that you would lean towards, or are you more just music piece based, that kind of thing?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Well, you're UNT. I kind of use the UNT system, a variation of it, where it's kind of curriculum based. You might be taking snare 2, keyboards 2 as an undergrad for a semester, and we're hitting those really hard. For me, though, I find I'm not type A enough of a personality to keep up with that. I'm not going to turn my computer around because this office is a disaster. But I'm not quite able to keep up with the week by week because I do like to be a little flux a little bit with lessons. But yeah, my big one is I think with anybody, I've made this mistake. I think anyone at their first job makes this mistake is you go to your first say college, let's just say college. You go to your first college gig or your first high school job or secondary school job, and you try to make it the program you just came from, and it's not. It's chances are, let's say a UNT doctorate, UNT, that's a heavy program, a long legacy of success, so long, and so many great players come out of there all the time. I mean, yourself included, Megan. And then, you get that, you get your first college job at Paris Junior College in Texas. I'm from Paris, Texas, but Paris Junior College doesn't have a music program. You get your first college job at Paris Junior College and you try to make it UNC. It's not UNC. It's PJC. It's a much smaller school. And you don't have to lower your standards necessarily, but you do have to adjust what you expect out of people. Because, if a high school, an 18-year-old kid comes to me and for their first lesson, I throw them Safa, they're gonna quit the program. I would quit the program. That's so fast. That's so much of a jump. So, you might find like maybe they're a sophomore in college and maybe they are playing repertoire that you feel is a little too easy. But, maybe it's not. They might be a great snare drummer. They might be a killer, Afro-Cuban percussionist. They might be a great drum set player. For me, I was talking with somebody the other day and they were like, "Oh, you're more of like a snare drum guy." And I was like, I am. And then someone else was like, "I thought you're more like a marimba person." I was like, "Dude, I don't know. I have no idea what I am anymore. I just like to play music. But yeah, I think the big thing is just be realistic with the people that are there. My students, a lot of them have to work. We're in a lower socioeconomic area, and a lot of them do have jobs. And I'm not gonna. They literally have to work to keep a roof over their heads. And I'm not gonna dock anybody for that. You have to do what you got to do to get by. But I adjust expectations and be lenient when I can, and adjust people's lessons curriculums or class curriculum when I have to. And it's at the end of the day, we all want to do the same thing. We all want to be great players and teachers, and some people just need a different path, and you just have to help. You just have to help. That's all it is.
Awesome, thank you. I think that is also very good advice. Just always be on the helping side of things for sure.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Hi. So, kind of what about what we were talking about. How do you balance playing to students' strengths and knowing when and where to work on the things they may not be as strong at? Like, it not only to help the thing you're like trying to work towards, but also for like them and what they want to do. So
I think of it like English literature. Like if you're getting a degree in literature or rhetoric, you might be a specialist in Russian literature of the 1800s. Like that might be your bag. Like that's where you're at. That's what you love. That's great. But this is an English degree. You have to read the classics. You have to study the classics. Like I, as a professor, cannot let you out of this program not knowing those other things. You can be a specialist over here, but you have to meet a certain level in these other things. I mean, for me, and back to music, I mean, of course, I graduate people that are a weaker drum set player, a weaker keyboard player. Maybe that's not their main thing, but yeah, you have to be able to leave my studio being able to play a little drum set at a competent level, because at the end of the day, these students have my name behind them, and I want them to be successful. And for them to be successful, they have to be able to do things like play drum set, play concert snare drum. They have to be able to play solo marimba. And those days of, oh, I'm more of like a rudimental drummer, I'm more of like a concert player, I'm more of a drum set person, those days are done. I mean, if y'all saw the LA Phil audition from a few years ago, it had the Eon's piece, the jig from that E minor jig. It's crazy hard. That was on one of the orchestral lists for the LA Phil, I believe. You have to be a marimba player to play that repertoire. That's hard. So those days of not being able to niche yourself into one area, you can do that, but I mean, you're not going to be able to get a teaching gig because you can only do one thing. You're probably not going to be able to win an audition because you might kill it on the excerpts, but maybe you can't play drum set. Maybe you can't phrase Bach on marimba, and someone else can, because that's where we've gotten to. Now everyone can do a little bit of everything, and a lot of people can do a little bit of everything at a higher level. And it's just as time goes on, I mean, like I was saying with Jake, who played that killer marimba solo, though, Otomo, I wasn't playing that repertoire when I was 18 years old. I was playing, I think I auditioned for college with the second movement of Gaetano, the Alice Gomez piece, way, way easier. And, in 10 years, the high schoolers, the 18-year-olds are going to be playing even harder stuff. We're catching up quickly. So you just got to do everything. And people might not want to, but to be employable, you just got to. You have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That was also very nice for me to hear as well, to hear your thoughts on teaching and creating as many well-rounded percussionists as
You
possible.
like spoons? How many of y'all playing spoons? Y'all working on it? Okay, I want a 30-minute musical spoon video from everyone.
Speaking of being an all-rounded percussionist, we don't play spoons. Hey, great.
Yeah. No, there's there kind of between y'all's 2 points, there are plenty of those little toy instruments. I picked up musical spoons just kind of just for fun. I just wanted something to kind of do to kind of have a nice time that wasn't tied to my work. But now it's like blossomed into something that is bringing me money and like helping me get students and helping me do other things. And you just never know what silly little thing you're going to pick up and do that's going to turn into an opportunity. So just take them all.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream. Thank you so much, everyone watching, for watching our first WPG Academy session ever with Caleb Pickering. I hope you learned something and got to listen to some amazing musicians play. Check back this Saturday for our second session with another alumni coach, Cameron Leach. Thank you, guys.